A millionaire woman poses as a cleaning lady and lets her maid manage her business. A few days later, she was shocked by what her maid had done in her place. Early in the morning, Nina woke up to the loud sound of her alarm clock. She was tired and didn't sleep well. Nina lived in a small old apartment in the Bronx. As she got up, she saw a pile of bills on her table. They were all for her mom's medical care, and they made her feel very worried. Nina loved her mom very much, but her mom was very sick. How will I pay for all this? She thought sadly. Nina thought maybe if she worked more, she could make enough money to help her mom. Nina heard her mom coughing in the next room, so she went to help her. She made some coffee in their tiny kitchen and carried it, along with her mom's medicine, to her mom's room. Her mom looked at her and gave her a weak smile, saying, "Good morning, my dear." Nina's heart ached as she helped her mom sit up and have breakfast. She remembered a time when they were both happy, working together in their flower shop. Suddenly, the phone rang loudly, and Nina felt a rush of worry. She quickly picked it up. It was the hospital. They said her mom needed surgery soon. Nina's heart pounded as she thought, "How will I ever pay for this? I can't lose my mom." Across the city, Isabella, a rich businesswoman, was having breakfast in her big mansion. She was the boss of a big cosmetics company, but the company wasn't doing well. People were upset with her company because of some bad things that had happened, and now the board wanted to remove her from her job. Isabella was very upset. Just then, Nina, who worked as Isabella's housekeeper, walked in quietly to serve some fruit. Isabella sighed and looked at Nina, who asked her if something was wrong. Isabella shook her head and said it was just business problems. Then, she paused and asked Nina if she had ever felt like her life was falling apart. Nina, surprised, nodded and told Isabella about her sick mom and all the money problems she was facing. Isabella listened closely, understanding Nina's worries. After a moment, Isabella got an idea. She looked at Nina with a strange, hopeful smile. "What if I told you I have a plan that could help both of us?" she asked. Nina looked at her, confused but curious. Isabella explained her idea. She wanted to switch lives with Nina for one day. Nina would pretend to be Isabella and attend a meeting with the board of Isabella's company, while Isabella would spend the day as Nina, doing her housekeeper duties. At first, Nina couldn't believe it. "How can I pretend to be you? I don't know anything about business," she said nervously. But Isabella smiled and said, "I trust you, Nina. You see more than you think, and you know more than you realize." She promised to teach Nina what she needed to know, and even offered her a big reward that would help pay for her mom's medical bills. Nina thought about it, and although she was scared, she agreed. Isabella led Nina to her fancy dressing room, filled with beautiful clothes. She picked out a suit for Nina to wear, and started giving her tips on how to look and act like an executive. "Stand tall, look people in the eye, and don't let anyone scare you," Isabella said with a firm smile. Nina was nervous, but she felt a little braver with Isabella's encouragement. As she practiced walking in Isabella's high heels, Isabella explained important things about the company and what Nina should say in the meeting. Just then, Isabella's assistant ran in, looking worried. He told them there was a new problem at the company, a possible scandal that the media was already asking about. Nina took a deep breath. She was about to face one of the hardest challenges of her life, but she also felt something new, a little spark of hope. Nina knew she was doing this for her mom, and with that thought, she stood a little taller, ready to face whatever came her way. Isabella looked very worried as she shared a glance with her friend Nina. She didn't look like her usual strong self, and Nina could tell something serious was going on. Isabella's assistant looked nervous and hesitated to speak, but after a deep breath, he shared the news. "There are rumors that we used animals for testing in our new product line. If people found out, it could ruin their company's reputation and hurt the launch of their eco-friendly products." Hearing this, Nina started to feel panicked. She looked at Isabella, expecting her to be calm, but she only saw worry in her eyes. The fancy dressing room around them felt tight and tense. What have I gotten into? Nina thought, her heart racing. Isabella turned to her and, though her voice shook, said with determination, "Nina, your first job as my helper just got a lot harder." Hours later, Isabella adjusted the strap of Nina's worn-out bag on her shoulder. Today, she would be pretending to be Nina, who was her housekeeper. Isabella took a deep breath before leaving her mansion, looking back at the luxury she was leaving behind, if only for a day. The driver was a bit confused by the situation, but Isabella climbed into Nina's small car, reminding herself, "Do your best, just like Nina would." As they drove, Isabella watched out the window, seeing streets get busier, buildings looking older, and the neighborhood growing humbler. She felt as if she was seeing a completely different world than the one she knew. How did Nina make this trip every day? She wondered with a new sense of respect for her housekeeper. When they arrived, Isabella stepped out of the car, staring at the worn-out building. She felt a mix of nervousness and responsibility as she made her way inside. In the small, noisy elevator, she practiced what she would say to Nina's mother, who was sick and needed help. "I'm a friend of Nina," she repeated softly, trying to calm her racing heart. Once inside the apartment, she felt the difference from her mansion. The place was small, neat, and humble. Just then, she heard a weak voice from the bedroom. "Nina, is that you?" Isabella froze for a moment, then forced herself to reply, "No, ma'am. I'm a friend of Nina. She asked me to come help." As she stepped toward the bedroom, Isabella's heart raced, unsure if she could do this. Inside, she saw Nina's mother, lying in bed and looking frail. The sight of her hooked up to medical machines hit Isabella hard. She felt a twinge of guilt for not thinking more about the lives of her employees outside of work. Suddenly, Nina's mother began coughing hard, her body shaking with effort. Isabella felt panic rise inside her. She didn't know what to do. When the coughing didn't stop, she realized she needed help. She called for an ambulance, her voice sounding more confident than she felt. Soon, paramedics arrived, filling the small apartment with action and questions that Isabella could barely answer. When they moved Nina's mother onto a stretcher, Isabella asked if she could go along. She held Nina's mother's hand during the ambulance ride, trying to comfort her as best as she could. At the hospital, Isabella felt out of place among the busy doctors and nurses. She was used to a life where things went her way, but here, she felt lost and powerless. When a doctor finally spoke to her, the news wasn't good. Nina's mother needed an expensive treatment, one that wasn't covered by her insurance. Normally, this would be no problem for Isabella, but she had left all her credit cards with Nina. Desperate, she tried calling Nina, but it went to voicemail. Nina must still be in the meeting. Feeling panic, Isabella turned to the doctor. "Please, start the treatment, I'll find a way to pay," she said firmly. The doctor hesitated but agreed, saying they would need some kind of guarantee soon. Isabella just hoped Nina was having better luck at the board meeting. Meanwhile, Nina was in a fancy boardroom, dressed in Isabella's clothes, ready to face the board members of the company. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was doing this for her mother. As she entered, the room fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. She stood tall, remembering Isabella's tips on looking confident. "Good morning, everyone," she started, trying to keep her voice steady. A man at the table asked, "Where's Isabella?" Nina explained that Isabella trusted her to speak for her today. The board members looked doubtful, but Nina decided to be honest. She shared her unique view, talking about how she had worked behind the scenes for years and understood the concerns of regular employees. To her surprise, some board members seemed interested in her ideas. One man, who seemed skeptical at first, asked her why Isabella had really sent her. Nina held her ground, saying that Isabella believed in listening to all voices. She then shared ideas for a more affordable product line, saying it would bring in more customers and improve the company's image. As the meeting continued, Nina's honesty and fresh ideas began to win some of the board members over. The chairman, impressed, admitted, "Maybe Isabella made the right choice in sending you today." Nina felt a wave of pride as the meeting ended. But just as she thought she was safe, the man who had questioned her earlier approached her, still suspicious. "Why did Isabella really send you?" he asked in a low voice. Nina stayed calm and replied, "She believes in listening to all voices in the company." The man studied her but eventually nodded and walked away. At the same time, back at the hospital, Isabella was facing her own challenge. Nina's mother's condition worsened, and Isabella had to act fast. The doctor told her the treatment was urgent and expensive, and since she couldn't reach Nina, Isabella had to decide. For the first time, she felt truly powerless, but she knew she had to try her best. "Please save her," Isabella told the doctor, taking full responsibility for the costs. As the doctor and nurse began the treatment, Isabella could only hope that Nina was managing well on her end. After the intense meeting, Nina was called for an interview to address the rumors of animal testing in their products. She felt the pressure as the cameras rolled, and the journalist asked tough questions. Nina did her best to answer with confidence, saying the company was looking into the matter. The journalist asked why Isabella wasn't there to address the accusations herself. Nina explained that Isabella had a personal emergency and trusted her team to handle things. Nina felt more confident until the journalist asked about a scandal from Isabella's past. Nina had no idea what he was talking about and felt panic rising again. She decided to be honest, saying she didn't know about the past incident but could talk about what the company was doing now. Although the journalist looked unsatisfied, Nina tried to steer the conversation toward the company's commitment to transparency and ethical practices. At the end of the interview, Nina felt proud. She had defended the company's reputation and made Isabella's trust in her count. She knew there was still a lot to handle, especially since some people remained suspicious. But for now, she had managed to do her part. Back at the hospital, Isabella was facing a life-changing moment. She had promised to take care of Nina's mother and had done everything she could. Holding her phone and hoping Nina was okay, Isabella realized she would have to take responsibility and show she could handle not just business matters, but the real struggles that others faced every day. Nina and Isabella worked in very different worlds. Nina was a cleaner, and Isabella was the boss of a big company. One day, they decided to switch places so they could understand each other's lives better. Nina started her day by going to an important meeting for Isabella's company. A reporter came and asked her many questions. The reporter wanted to know if the company was doing everything right. Nina tried her best to answer. She told the reporter that people, like other journalists, activists, and even regulators, were welcome to visit their company and check everything for themselves. When the meeting ended, the reporter left, but Nina wasn't sure if she had done a good job. Just then, Nina saw some missed calls from her friend Isabella, which made her nervous. She thought, "I hope Isabella is okay, and there's no problem with my mom." Nina's mom was in the hospital, and Isabella had been there helping her. Meanwhile, Isabella was feeling exhausted at the hospital. Nina's mom was stable, but Isabella was still worried after seeing her in pain. Isabella looked at the clock and realized she was late to clean a rich person's house on the Upper East Side for Nina. Without time to change her clothes, Isabella quickly caught a taxi to get there, hoping she could do the job well. When Isabella arrived at the big mansion, she felt nervous. A fancy, middle-aged woman opened the door and looked at Isabella, frowning. "You're not Nina," the woman said, sounding suspicious. Isabella forced a smile and said, "I'm Isabella, Nina's friend. She had a family emergency, so she asked me to come and help today." The woman didn't seem very happy, but let her in. Isabella tried her best to clean, but she was struggling. She had trouble using the vacuum cleaner, didn't know which cleaning products to use, and wasn't sure what to do first. The client kept watching her, pointing out little mistakes, saying things like, "Nina never leaves streaks on the mirrors," and "Nina knows how to arrange the pillows perfectly." Isabella felt very tired and nervous as she worked. She accidentally knocked over a vase. Luckily, it was empty. mixed colored and white clothes by mistake, and almost broke a very fancy ornament. The client grew more frustrated. Finally, she looked at Isabella and said, "I don't think you really work with Nina. You're not doing a good job." Isabella panicked. She told the woman, "Please don't call anyone. The truth is, Nina's mom is in the hospital, and she needed my help. I know I'm not as good as Nina, but I'm trying my best." The client's face softened, and she put down the phone. She said, "All right, I'll give you one more chance, but I need to see some improvement." Isabella nodded and got back to work, feeling grateful. At the end of the day, Nina came home and saw Isabella looking just as tired as she was. Both women looked at each other, feeling a lot of different emotions. Finally, Isabella said, "Nina, I didn't know how hard your work is. I thought cleaning would be easy, but it's not." Nina sat down and nodded. She shared what happened in the meeting and told Isabella how she promised the reporter that the company would let people visit and see everything. Isabella listened, a little worried but also surprised. She said, "You might have saved our company, Nina. Investors are excited about the promises you made. The stock is even going up because of it." Nina was surprised but also a bit worried. "But Isabella, what about the rumors of animal testing? Are they true?" Isabella looked away, feeling a little guilty, and said, "I didn't know about that. But you're right. We need to keep the promises you made." A little while later, Isabella got a phone call. Her assistant said that people were very happy with the changes Nina had talked about in the interview. They were excited about the new direction for the company. Nina's cleaning client even called to say she wanted Isabella to be her permanent cleaner because she was so honest. Both women looked at each other, realizing that their little experiment had turned into something much bigger than they expected. They had learned a lot about each other's lives and decided they wanted to work together to make things better at the company. Finally, Isabella turned to Nina and said with a smile, "Nina, I want you to join the executive team at the company." Nina couldn't believe what she was hearing, and she felt a mix of surprise and happiness. Isabella looked at Nina and said, "Your special way of thinking, your honesty, and how you can think fast when things get tough are just what we need to help our company grow." Nina's heart started to race, and she felt many emotions all at once: excitement, fear, and disbelief. "But Mrs. Lewis, I don't have any real training in business. I'm just she started to say, but Isabella interrupted her. "Don't think less of yourself, Nina. You saved this company today. You showed me a new way to lead." Nina was quiet for a moment, thinking about the offer. "What if I'm not good enough?" she whispered, sharing her fears. "You are good enough, Nina. I wouldn't offer you this job if I didn't believe in you. I'll be right there with you every step of the way," Isabella reassured her. In the days that followed, Nina found herself in a whirlwind of changes. She accepted Isabella's offer, and together they started to make the promises of honesty and helping others come true. Nina brought her special way of thinking to every meeting, challenging the old ways and suggesting new ideas. Some people were not happy with the changes, but Nina's determination and Isabella's support began to change the company's atmosphere. One day, while Nina was leading a presentation to the investors, Isabella said, "You're changing this company, Nina." Nina smiled, feeling more confident than ever. "We're changing this company together, Mrs. Lewis." As the company started to grow under their new leadership, Nina's mother got better too, thanks to the treatment that Isabella had made possible. Nina balanced her new job at the company with regular visits to the hospital, feeling joy and gratitude as she watched her mother recover. One day, after a great visit with her mother, Nina got a message from Isabella saying there was an emergency meeting and to come right away. What could it be? Nina wondered, feeling anxious. But when she got to the office, it wasn't a crisis at all. It was a celebration. The conference room was decorated, and the whole executive team was there, including Isabella, who was smiling widely. "We just got the results from the first quarter since our changes," Isabella announced. "Our sales went up by 30%, and we've been named one of the most ethical companies of the year." The room exploded with applause, and Nina felt tears of pride in her eyes. She looked at Isabella, who was no longer just her boss, but now a partner and a friend. "We did it, Mrs. Lewis," Nina said, her voice shaking with emotion. Isabella smiled and put her hand on Nina's shoulder. "Yes, we did, and please call me Isabella." In the months that followed, Nina and Isabella worked side by side, each using their special strengths. Nina never forgot to care for all the employees, often walking around the factory and listening to their concerns. Isabella learned to appreciate Nina's perspective, always asking her for advice on important decisions. One evening, while they enjoyed late-night coffee in the office, Isabella chuckled softly. "You know, Nina, I used to think your life was easier than mine. What a silly thought." Nina smiled back. "And I used to think the same about you, Isabella. I guess we both learned a lot." As they looked out the window at the bright city lights, Nina thought about their incredible journey. What had started as a simple idea of switching roles for a day turned into something amazing, changing not only their lives but also the lives of everyone around them. The company was doing well, Nina's mother was healthy, and they had formed a friendship and partnership they never expected. Who would have thought that one day of craziness could lead to all of this? Nina thought. Isabella smiled as if she could read Nina's mind. "Here's to change, Nina," she said, raising her cup in a toast, "and to never underestimate the power of a new perspective." That night, as Nina and Isabella looked out at the city from the office, they both thought about the extraordinary journey they had taken together. What started as a fun experiment had turned into a strong partnership, changing their lives and the future of Lewis Cosmetics. They learned that everyone's life can seem better or easier from the outside, but every experience teaches us something important. The empathy, understanding, and respect they developed not only saved the company, but also created a friendship that would last forever. Together, they showed that true leadership comes from understanding and appreciating one another. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest inspiring and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.